All right, strap in, everyone. We are going deep on the EU's AI Act today.
Excited to break this down.
You really went all out with the prep materials, huh? Articles, research, forum discussions.
Well, yeah, it's important.
Absolutely. It's a beast of a document. 113 articles, all the annexes, the whole shebang.
Definitely not a light read.
But this is about way more than just rules. It's like the EU's trying to be the world leader in responsible AI.
That's a great way to put it. It's not just about limiting the bad stuff. They want to shape the whole development landscape.
Okay, so how are they actually doing that? This trustworthy AI idea seems to be the core, right? What does that even mean practically?
Well, imagine every AI system, before it can even be sold, has to go through rigorous testing, like prove it meets these really strict safety standards.
Okay, so that makes sense. Kind of like new medications or
Yeah.
airplanes, right? They
Mhm.
get tested like crazy before anyone uses them.
Exactly. Makes sense, right? If AI is going to be everywhere, from healthcare to transportation.
Oh yeah, we gotta know it's safe.
Absolutely.
But AI is so different depending on what it's doing. They can't be treating a spam filter with the same seriousness as a, like, surgical robot.
Yeah, right, they aren't. And that's where their risk-based approach comes in. They've got this pyramid of risk, basically.
I've seen that.
At the very bottom, the stuff with almost no risk,
Huh.
your spam filters, those recommendation
The
algorithms.
things that haven't caused a global meltdown yet.
Exactly. Basically unregulated. Then you move up.
Okay, what's next?
Limited risk stuff. So your chatbots, deepfakes.transparency is key there. You have to know if you're talking to AI, not a person.
And any AI-generated stuff got to be labeled, informed consent, all that.
Right. Then we get to the high-risk zone. This is where it gets interesting.
Lay it on me.
So AI in critical infrastructure, law enforcement, healthcare,
Whoa, okay, yeah, high stakes.
even job recruitment, credit scoring,
Mhm.
anything that can really impact people's lives.
So for that stuff, the EU's saying,
Strict
what
requirement.
kind of requirements are we talking about?
Rigorous testing. Validation. The data used has to be top-notch. Human oversight to prevent bias.
So no more move fast and break things with AI, huh?
Not for this stuff. And then, at the very top of this pyramid,
There's more.
unacceptable risk. Banned. Outright.
Whoa, what falls under that?
Things like social scoring systems, ranking citizens based on behavior,
Oh, wow.
real-time biometric ID in public, for mass surveillance, anything that exploits vulnerable groups like kids or people with disabilities, hardline, totally banned.
Okay, good. That's reassuring. But you mentioned earlier systems like ChatGPT. Where do those fit in?
That is the question, isn't it? General purpose AI.
It can be used for, like, anything.
Exactly. So the risk depends entirely on how it's used.
Right. It's like that 1 minute it's writing code, the next it's generating fake news.
Yeah.
So how do you even regulate that?
It's a real puzzle. The EU knows these systems have huge EE potential, good and bad.
So they're walking a tightrope.
Trying to. They're still under the AI Act, but the new European AI office, they'll be keeping a close eye on this stuff.
This AI office, it sounds like a pretty big deal. What's their role exactly?
They're like the AI watchdogs for all of Europe. Centralized. And they've got power.
Power to do what?
Request info from companies, run their own evaluations of AI systems. If companies don't follow the rules,
They can get penalized.
big fines, potentially.
Yep.
The EU's making a statement here.
Yeah, messing around with AI development in Europe is not going to fly.
Not anymore.
Okay, so we've got the core ideas, the risk pyramid, the things that are straight up banned, and this new AI office. It's clear the EU is all in on this. This isn't just a dip in the pool. They're diving headfirst into regulating AI.
Absolutely. It's really impressive.
The ripple effects of this. I don't think they're going to stay within Europe's borders.
Definitely not.
Okay, so we've got the big picture, but let's get a little more specific. What are some of the ways they're planning to make this work practically? I've seen these regulatory sandboxes mentioned.
Ah, yes. The sandboxes.
What are those all about?
So they're basically these controlled environments where companies can test out their AI systems, but the regulators are watching,
Oh, interesting.
especially for potentially high-risk stuff like a beta test, but with the EU looking over your shoulder.
So companies can get feedback, make changes before they, like, break the rules without knowing.
Exactly. And it lets the EU see what's being developed, spot issues early on. They're especially focused on using these to help smaller startups.
Oh, that makes sense. Startups maybe don't have the resources to deal with all this complexity on their own.
Exactly. Leveling the playing field a bit.
So they're trying to make sure innovation doesn't get choked out by all these rules.
That's the goal. It's about collaboration, really. Startups, big companies, regulators, all working together to make AI happen responsibly.
Okay, I like that idea. But let's be realistic. The AI Act,
hmm
it's going to upset some people. What happens when someone doesn't play by the rules? What are the consequences?
Well, the European AI office has real teeth. It's not just for show. They can issue warnings, demand changes to an AI system, and for serious violations, the fines can be huge.
Wow. Okay.
And in the worst cases, they can just ban a system outright. No more sales in Europe.
So they're not messing around.
Nope. And remember, the AI office is keeping tabs on everyone, but technology, it moves fast.
Oh, yeah.
How are they going to keep this AI Act from being obsolete in a couple years? The AI world could look totally different by then. It's a good question. And the EU's thought about it. The Act's got these mechanisms built in to keep it adaptable.
Oh, tell me more.
They're going to review and update the list of high-risk systems regularly, so anything new that pops up.
Gets added to the list.
Exactly. They're also relying on industry standards and codes of practice, which can change faster than the law itself.
So they're designing it to be upgradable.
Exactly. And get this, they've even given the European Commission the power to make small tweaks through these things called delegated acts.
Delegated acts.
Yeah, without having to go through the whole lawmaking process again.
So they can update it quicker. Yep, keep it current.
Okay, so they're building in flexibility. But what about the human element? We've been talking tech, but this AI Act, it depends on people getting it, accepting it right.
You're absolutely right. Technology is only part of the story. The EU knows that, which is why they're emphasizing AI literacy.
Hold on, AI literacy.
Making sure people understand at a basic level how AI works, the good and the bad, the ethical stuff.
Oh, that's interesting.
The Act even says companies have to train their employees on all this.
Really?
Yep. So it's not just regulating the tech, it's educating the people using it.
Smart. Because AI, it's already changing our world, and it's only going to get more intense.
It is. And the more people understand, the better. It really is going to become more intense. And yeah, the more people get it, the better prepared we'll all be.
Okay, I'm getting this image of the EU trying to build, this whole ecosystem of trust around AI. But sometimes it feels like it's only the big guys. Google, Microsoft.
The big tech companies.
Right? Does the AI Act do anything for the smaller players, the startups? That's a great point. And it lies something the EU has been thinking about carefully. A lot of people actually think the AI Act could help smaller companies in the long run.
Really? How so?
Well, think about it. One of the hardest things for a startup is just getting people to trust them. Customers, investors.
Right, they need to prove themselves.
Exactly. And by following these tough AI Act rules, smaller companies, they can kind of show off their commitment to doing AI the right way, ethically, responsibly.
It's like a badge of honor. We're doing this right.
Yeah. And that can be a big deal when you're competing with those huge tech companies with all their money.
So the AI Act, it's not just a burden, it could actually be a way for startups to stand out.
Absolutely. And don't forget those regulatory sandboxes we were talking about. Those are there to specifically help smaller companies get their AI systems tested and refined.
Oh, right. With the regulators' help, it's like a safety net.
Exactly. It levels the playing field so everyone has a fair shot.
Okay, this is making a lot more sense. But let's be practical for a minute. If a company screws up, violates the AI Act, what happens?
Well, the EU has options, and they're not afraid to use them.
Oh, like what?
It depends on how bad it is, right? For small stuff, maybe a warning, or they have to change something about the AI. But if it's serious,
Things get real.
the fines can be huge. And in extreme cases, that AI system, it's banned. Can't sell it in Europe anymore.
Wow, no more messing around.
Nope. The European AI office is watching closely.
They're making a point.
They are.
Okay, so we've talked about benefit, the risks, if you break the rules, how it's all enforced. But here's the big question. How does this impact Europe in the global AI race?
The million-dollar question. Does regulation help, or does it hurt innovation?
Some people are saying that these strict standards will put European companies at a disadvantage. What's the other side of that argument?
Well, the EU is basically saying, look, responsible AI, that's the key to being competitive in the long term.
They're playing the long game.
Exactly. Build trust, make sure things are ethical. That's how you create a place where people want to invest and innovate.
So it's about sustainability,
Yeah,
not just chasing quick wins.
right. The EU is saying, we're not cutting corners, we're doing this right, and in the end, it's going to create a stronger AI landscape for everyone in Europe.
Okay, I can see that logic. But AI, it's global, right? It's happening everywhere.
It is.
What if other countries don't follow suit? Is Europe just setting itself up to fail by going it alone on this?
It's true, the EU can't control the whole world. But they're hoping that by doing this right, others will want to follow their lead.
So they're setting the example, like, hey, this is how you do it.
Yeah, it's like a ripple effect. If the EU can show that responsible AI is possible and it worked well, other countries might say, hey, we should do that too, and that would be good for everyone, not just Europe.
I like that, leading by example. But let's face it, AI, it's a moving target.
Constantly changing.
New stuff popping up all the time that we can't even predict right now. How can the EU possibly make rules for something that's evolving so quickly?
That's the tough part about regulating any new technology, right? But remember those delegated acts we talked about?
Oh, right, the fast track updates.
That's one way they can adapt to new stuff without having to rewrite the whole law. And they've given the European Commission the job of keeping that list of high-risk AI systems updated, too. So as new tech comes up...
Boom, add it to the list.
Exactly. It's about having guidelines, but also, being able to adapt as things change.
Find that balance.
Right. The goal isn't to stop innovation, it's to give it a framework so it can happen in a good way.
Okay, I'm really starting to see the whole picture here. But I keep thinking about this AI literacy thing. It seems really important. But how are they actually going to do that? Are we talking like AI classes in schools?
I don't know about that.
AI influencers on TikTok?
Maybe. But they are definitely taking a multi-pronged approach.
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, like we said, companies have to train their employees. That's a start. But they're also putting money into bigger educational initiatives for the general public.
What kind of initiatives?
Think public awareness campaigns, online resources, educational programs in schools and universities, funding research into the best ways to actually teach people about AI.
So it's not just like the technical stuff. It's about helping people understand how AI is going to impact society, the economy, our lives.
Exactly. The EU wants citizens to be active participants in this AI revolution, not just sitting on the sidelines watching it happen.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. The EU's thinking about the tech, the rules, the economy, and how all this affects people, all at the same time. This is a huge GE undertaking.
It is. But for the EU, this is a defining moment for AI. They want to get this right, not just for Europe, but for the whole world.
That's a bold statement.
Okay.
But honestly, I'm starting to feel optimistic, cautiously optimistic.
I think we can be.
If they can actually pull this off, the whole AI industry could change for the better.
I think so too. And it's something we all need to pay attention to.
Absolutely. We've covered so much ground here. Smaller companies, how the rules are enforced, global impact, AI literacy. It's amazing how the EU has put together this vision for a responsible AI future. But you know what? We've been kind of dancing around the specifics of those high-risk AI systems, what companies actually need to do to follow the rules.
You're right.
Time to unpack that, don't you think?
Let's do it. Let's get into the nitty-gritty and see how the EU plans to make trustworthy AI a reality.
All right, let's get specific. High-risk AI systems. What does a company actually have to do to follow this AI Act?
Well, the Act lays out some pretty specific requirements.
Yeah.
And it's not just the companies building the AI, the companies using it, they have to follow the rules too.
Right, because even a safe AI can be used in risky ways, I guess.
Exactly. So the Act talks about providers and deployers. Providers are the ones making and selling the AI, and deployers are the ones actually using it.
Okay, so if like Google made a facial recognition algorithm, they'd be the provider, and a police department using it would be the deployer.
Exactly. And for providers, the rules are tough. They have to prove their AI is using good data, that it's accurate, that it's built to handle risks and bias.
So it can't just work, it has to be responsibly made for the beginning.
That's the idea. The EU saying, if you're selling high-risk AI, you better be able to show us you did it right.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do they actually show that? What's the proof?
This is where it gets interesting. The Act uses something called harmonized standards.
Harmonized standards.
Yeah, they're like these super detailed specs. They lay out exactly how W to meet the requirements.
So like if the AI Act is the rulebook, the standards are the blueprints. You follow those, you're good to go.
Perfect analogy. And the standards are going to be made with industry experts, so they'll be tailored to the specific kind of AI.
So providers, they got to follow those standards to the letter, or else the AI office is going to come knocking.
You got it. But it's not just about avoiding punishment. There's a bigger incentive here.
Oh yeah? What's that?
The EU is betting that following these rules will actually make companies more competitive.
How so?
Think about it. It's all about trustworthy AI, right?
Hmm.
If you can say, hey, our AI isn't just effective, it's also safe, reliable, ethical, that's a big deal.
It's a selling point.
Exactly. Especially now when people are kind of nervous about what AI can do,
Yeah.
That trust, it's valuable.
It's like a seal of approval, right? Made in Europe, developed responsibly.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Okay, but let's talk about the deployers now.
The company's actually using the AI.
Right. What are their responsibilities? They have to make sure they're using the AI the right way, following the instructions, that their staff are trained.
Makes sense.
And this is important. Human oversight the whole time.
Wait, hold on. Human oversight. The EU saying humans have to be involved.
Absolutely. One of the big ideas in the AI Act is that high-risk AI, it can never be totally on autopilot.
Okay, so it's about humans and AI working together.
Yep. AI as a tool, not a replacement. The AI Act recognizes that AI, as powerful as it is, it can mess up. And sometimes you need a human to step in to make sure things are safe, fair.
That makes sense. But what happens when something does go wrong? Like the AI malfunctions or makes a bad decision?
Well, that's why the Act is so big on risk management. Providers, A&D deployers, they have to have systems in place to spot and fix problems.
From the start, all the way through.
Right. It's not just about making safe AI. It's about always checking it, making sure it's doing what it should be doing. And if there's an incident, they have to investigate, report it to the EU, and make sure it doesn't happen again.
Accountability is key.
Absolutely. The
Yeah.
EU is serious about this. Developing and using AI, it comes with responsibility.
Okay, we're seeing how the EU wants AI to work in Europe. But the big question, all of these rules, will it stifle innovation? Will European companies be able to compete?
It's a valid question. A lot of people are talking about this. But the EU is betting that trustworthy AI is the key. In the long run, it'll be worth it.
They're saying, yeah, it might be tough now,
Yeah.
but in the end, trust and reliability, that'll make European AI stronger.
Exactly. They're saying the other way, just racing to build AI as fast as possible without thinking about the consequences.
Wow.
That's dangerous.
It's short-sighted.
Yeah. And it could backfire.
This isn't just about being competitive. It's about making AI that benefits everyone.
That's the big idea.
Yeah.
The EU wants to set the standard, make AI that's a force for good.
It's a big goal.
Mm-hmm.
And this deep dive, looking into the AI Act,
Yeah.
it's not just about understanding the rules. It's about understanding one of the biggest changes in human history.
It really is. And what we do now, all of us, it's going to shape the future of AI.
That's a big responsibility.
Yeah.
And kind of scary,
Hmm.
but exciting too.
Really.
The story of AI hasn't been fully written yet, and the EU's trying to write a chapter that we can all be proud of.
Well said.
Well, that just about wraps up our deep dive into the EU's AI Act. Woo. This is a lot to take in, but I don't know about you. I'm feeling optimistic. This is a big experiment, and it's going to be fascinating to see what happens next. Thanks for joining us on this journey, everyone, and keep those brains buzzing as we all figure out this brave new world of AI together.